Chris Graham here from Trailblazer RV. We're here in the shop at Trailblazer RV, and I'm going to take you for a new RV orientation on a 2019 Sportsmen LE 270 THLE. So let's start right here at the front of the trailer. A couple of notable things at the front of the RV. One is your propane system, the other is your battery. With your propane system, you've got two 20-pound propane bottles here. Both of these are full right now, and you have an automatic switchover propane regulator. So you can see this regulator has chosen this bottle as the selection bottle. If you open both valves, we recommend opening the valve on both tanks. Then the propane system will deplete the selected bottle first, and then it will automatically start to pull propane from the reserve bottle. When that happens, there's a little sight glass here at the front of the regulator. It'll turn from green to clear. Sorry, clear to red. And when that happens, you can switch your regulator over to the second bottle. This now becomes the selection bottle, and you can remove the first bottle to refill it without ever shutting down your propane system. The propane cover just fits right over the top of the bottle. It just rides just like that, and there's a little access door here for easy access to your valves. Behind your propane tanks is your battery. It's a 12-volt deep cycle RV battery with two leads coming to it. Red is positive, black is negative. With a flooded wet cell style battery, there is some periodic maintenance required. We recommend doing the maintenance once or twice a year. Pop these two caps off, and you'll find 6 cells that are full of liquid. If you notice the liquid to be particularly low in any of the cells, and especially if you can see metal plates sticking through the liquid, then that liquid needs to be topped up. You can top it up with some distilled water and put a good charge on the battery. We also recommend over the winter, when the RV is in storage, taking the battery out of the RV, storing it indoors, somewhere where it's not going to freeze, and preferably not on a concrete surface. Right behind the battery, you have on this model a battery disconnect switch. So when you're putting the RV into storage for any length of time, but leaving the battery on the RV, you can disconnect the battery. The white stripe is disconnected, the green stripe is connected. So in that position, the battery is active and ready to go. If you'll follow me around this side of the trailer, magnetic catches for all of your baggage doors. Inside the storage compartment, we've stored a few things for you. We supply a brand new 20-foot medium heavy duty sewer hose. Also, your power cord is here. This is a 30 amp power cord. So many RV sites you visit will have the 30 amp post, and plug this directly into the post. If you don't have 30 amps available, we also supply a park adapter to break that 30 amp service down to 15 amp household style power. Power cord attaches right here on the side of the trailer. Next to the storage compartment, you've got your freshwater hookups. There's a simple gravity fill to fill your freshwater tank with a hose. You can use a normal garden hose for that. What we recommend is one of the white drinking water specific hoses. That way you won't get the plasticky garden hose taste in your freshwater system. You can also hook up to pressured water directly from the source. If you hook your hose up to the city water connection, we recommend using a water pressure regulator that will maintain a proper operating pressure in your water system, somewhere around 40 psi. Right below that, you have your stabilizer jacks. So you crank down stabilizer jacks, one on each corner of the RV. Once you get your RV parked and relatively close to level, you can crank your stabilizing jacks down to be snug with the ground, but you don't ever want to actually lift the RV with the jacks. These aren't designed for lifting or leveling, they're just designed for stability. So nice and snug with the ground, but the best way to level the RV side to side is to back it up on blocks. You can back your 2 axles up on any type of block. Lots of people just use 2x6s or 2x4s. We also have easy leveling blocks that fit together like Legos, so you can have a little more confidence in your blocks. There's another hose connection here on the side of the trailer. This is your black water flush system. So when you're dumping your holding tanks, you can hook your garden hose up to here and open the tap, and this will spray off the inside lining of the tank. Just kind of helps to sanitize the tank as well as keep your monitor panels reading accurately. On the topic of dumping your holding tanks, you've got your sewer termination system here. So the sewer hose attaches right onto the pipe, and you have 2 valves, a larger black valve and a smaller gray valve. So attach your sewer hose onto here, the other end goes into the ground. Always open the black valve first, let the sewer drain, close the black valve, and then open the gray valve to let the sink and shower water flush out your sewer hose. And just make it a little more pleasant when you have to remove the sewer hose. Once that's finished, close the valve, replace the cap, and you're good to go. A couple of vents on this side of the trailer, both primarily vents, no real reason to access them. The one on the bottom is your furnace. The only thing to know about this is it does get very hot, so if you have young children around the RV, make sure they know not to touch that. And the one above that is your fridge vent. You can remove this panel for some cleaning and just general upkeep, but for the most part, it's primarily a vent here on the side, another on the roof, just to circulate some air through the back of that fridge mechanism. Here at your running gear, your tires are inflated to 80 psi. It's stamped right on the side of the trailer, 80 psi cold, and we do recommend running them right at 80 psi. So we consider that a part of your normal RV maintenance. Periodically check your tire pressure. Also periodically retorque your wheel nuts. Wheel nuts are torqued to 100 foot-pounds. If you don't have a torque wrench, just nice and tight, but torquing wheel nuts and monitoring tire pressure, 2 things we consider as part of your regular RV maintenance. The other maintenance item here at the running gear is your wheel bearings. These have easy lube axles, so this center cap with a flathead screwdriver, you can pop that off. You'll find a little rubber cap inside there that you can remove to access a grease zerk. You can use a grease gun to grease your inner and outer bearings that way. That doesn't eliminate the need to repack your wheel bearings, but it prolongs the intervals. So instead of repacking your wheel bearings every year, maybe you do it every 2 or 3 years. Around the back, this is a toy hauler. So I'll show you how to drop the door down. You've got 2 latches here for the door. Lift up and rotate on both sides. It's a very heavy door, but you don't notice the weight because of the lower springs here integrated into the hinge. So the door can be easily raised and lowered with just one person. There's also a threshold ramp here, so that when you're running machines up and down, you don't damage the hinge or get debris into the hinge. Around the front, Your lend-a-hand door handle is just folded across the door right now. It just folds out easily. Fold either direction. And your entry step pulls, flips, and flips. Flip up the bottom, second step, and then slide the whole works into position. You'll also find here on the front of the RV the awning. This one is the smart arm awning, so you can actually operate this awning from the inside of the RV or the outside. To operate it from the outside, you have to disengage the lock by pressing and holding the unlock button until the green light comes on. Then you can extend and retract the awning. We'll go ahead and extend it all the way, or a good amount of the way. This smart arm also has the optional motion sensor and wind sensor. So if you have the wind sensor engaged, the wind picks up and the awning starts to flap around, it will automatically pull itself in. You have the motion sensor engaged, that is in respect to the awning light. So if it picks up motion in the campsite, your awning light will come on. There's actually 3 different levels of light for the awning light. So all that can be controlled from the outside. It can also be controlled from the inside, right inside the door. So if you'll follow me up into the trailer, we'll start right here at the entry door. So this is your awning control from inside. Same thing, extend and retract. You don't have control for your wind sensor or motion sensor from here, but you do have control for your awning light. One of the blue switches for the awning light, the other one for the yard light, just outside the door. The third switch here is for your main ceiling lights. Starting at the back of the trailer and moving forward, you've got 2 folding sofas here, both folded up for in the travel position for now. We'll fold one of those down just so you can see how to do it. I'm just going to attach the cover for the window here. So the sofa just rolls right down from the wall, folds up into a sofa. Same thing on this side. There's 2 freestanding tables that sit in front of here. They're just stored on the front bed right now. You can travel with them there, or you can travel with them. Some people opt to set the table right here behind the sofa and strap the whole works in place. Where did my strap
You
go?
have to fold down the window.
Oh,
Blind outside.
there it is. So that's ready for travel. You've got D-ring tie downs all over the floor here. Each tie down has a 500-pound rating. So if you're tying down a 1,000-pound machine, it needs to be tied down to at least 2 tie downs. Any respectable job of tying down a machine would use at least 2 tie downs anyway. Here in the kitchen, you've got a few of your RV appliances, starting with the stovetop. And because we put new propane tanks on, and I just opened the valves earlier, the first thing we should do is come in here, open the burners, and bleed some of that air off the system. Once we've bled the air off the system, use the piezo sparker to ignite any of the 3 burners. The only pilot light that you have to worry about in the entire RV is for the oven. So to light the pilot for your oven, turn the pilot knob over to pilot on, push in and hold on this knob, and while holding the knob in, light the pilot light right here at the pilot assembly. Once you see a flame there, continue to hold the knob for 10 or 15 seconds while the flame sensor heats up. Once you release that knob and maintain a pilot light, you can turn the temperature of the oven to whatever you like. And when you're finished using the oven, you can turn it back to pilot on and leave the pilot running, or you can just simply turn it all the way off and relight the pilot next time you need to use the oven. Right next to that is the fridge. This is a dual gas electric fridge, and it's automatic. So if you turn that fridge to the on position, it shows A for automatic. When it's on automatic, anytime it has electricity available, the fridge will operate on electricity. But if you blow a breaker or the trailer becomes unplugged or something like that, it will sense that and it'll automatically switch over to propane so you don't lose any of the food in the fridge. This one also has a temperature adjustment. So 1 through 4 for temperatures. I usually set it to 3, but depending on ambient temperature and altitude above sea level, you may find you need to adjust that periodically. With this fridge, you can override the automatic function to only operate on propane. The situations where you might want to do that, if you're plugged into a weak breaker, don't want to risk blowing a breaker by running the electric element for the fridge, or if you want to cool the fridge quickly, it will actually cool faster. You might find it cools faster on propane than on electricity. Now, having said that, it takes several hours to cool a absorption fridge down. So our recommendation is you start that fridge cooling the day before you load it up so it's nice and cold by the time you put the food into it. To shut off the fridge, press and hold the power button until the light goes out. Right down here near the floor is an important feature. This is your propane leak detector. And this is actually a combination propane and carbon monoxide CO detector. So if this ever starts beeping, there's 3 potential causes for that. It could be alerting you to a propane leak. If that's the case, you'll most likely smell the propane before the alarm goes off. It could also be alerting you to a potential carbon monoxide situation. But the most common reason that these alarm is actually a low voltage alarm. Just like your smoke detector at home, when the battery gets low, if the RV's battery gets low, this will chirp to alert you of a low voltage situation. So if you do hear the propane detector going off, there's a very good chance that it has nothing to do with propane or carbon monoxide. The first thing to check, obviously, still treat it with respect and consider your safety, but the most common reason for that is low voltage from your battery. Right above that is your thermostat. So this controls both the heating and cooling systems for the RV. And we're not actually plugged into 110 volt power right now, so I won't be able to actually kick on the air conditioning, but you can select between cooling and heating systems here, where there's also a fan. The fan is in respect to the air conditioning fan. You can set it to cool, use the actual air conditioning just to run the fan for the air conditioning, or you can set it to heat as per the thermostat. Turn that up. I don't know if you could hear the fan kick on for the furnace behind me. When that fan kicks on, it's going to run for 15 or 20 seconds before you hear it tick as it automatically lights the burner. There it goes. I don't know if you could hear that in the video, but the burner has lit. Given a few minutes here, we would have warm air blowing through our air vents. When I shut it off, exactly the same thing, only reverse. The burner goes out immediately, but that fan's going to continue to run for 30 seconds up to a minute to go through its cycle before it shuts down. Into the bathroom here, there is a couple of important things to touch on in the bathroom. One is this panel here. This is your monitor panel. So you can see that your gray tank is completely empty, black tank is completely empty, fresh tank is completely empty, and battery is 2/3 full. If we were currently plugged into power and that was charging, it would show all 4 lights. At 3 lights, that's considered a full battery. There's also three switches here on the control panel. One for your water pump. So if you're operating off of your freshwater reserve, turn on your water pump to access water. The other 2 switches here are for your hot water tank. One to operate on propane and one to operate on electricity. If you are plugged into electricity and wish to operate your hot water tank electrically, there's an additional black rocker switch on the outside of the hot water tank, which I realize I forgot to show you. We'll stop there before the end of the show through. The other notable device in here is this power outlet. This is a GFI, ground fault circuit interrupter power outlet. Same as the ones in the bathroom of your house with a test and reset button on it. The difference in an RV is this is wired in series with your entire 110 volt electrical system. So if you trip this breaker, none of your power outlets will work. If you're plugged into power and you're not getting any power from your power outlets, come into the bathroom, press the reset button, everything will most likely go back to normal. With the toilet, anytime you're using your RV sewer system, you'll want to use a proper RV toilet chemical. They're available in liquid, powder, or tablet form. We sell all 3. And the way to properly use that chemical, every time you dump your holding tank, when you're finished dumping the tank, come into the trailer, pour a package of toilet chemical into the toilet. Use the foot flush by pushing halfway down on that foot flush to fill the bowl with water. Once the bowl is full of water and toilet chemical, push the rest of the way down to dump everything into the tank. Make sure you put the chemical down into the tank with some water. It takes some water to activate that toilet chemical. Then you don't need to do anything else until the next time you dump your holding tanks. When you've dumped your holding tanks, recharge your holding tank chemical. Here in the bedroom, no major components to talk about in here. There's a second TV location here with blocking in the wall and wiring in the roof. When you go to mount a TV to here, take some precaution to make sure that you're hitting the backing. Sometimes the sticker isn't placed perfectly, so make sure you're hitting the backing. The bed lifts up. Some storage available under the bed. And the only mechanical component in here, down near the floor, is your power converter. So this is the electrical center for the RV. All of your 110 volt circuits are on breakers, and you'll find fuses here for all of your 12 volt circuits. Recommend having some spare fuses with you. It's not uncommon in an RV to blow a fuse. You've got mostly 15 amp fuses here with a couple of 40s. So if you have both 15 and 40 amp fuses on hand, just in case. The other thing with this power converter, occasionally when it's operating under load, if you've got a very dead battery or your power consumption is high, you may hear a little bit of a humming or a buzzing sound. Perfectly normal. It has a cooling fan in it like what you would have in a computer. Makes a little bit of noise, but it's nothing to be concerned about. Here we are back on the outside of the trailer to cover that hot water tank that we missed on our initial walk around. Your hot water tank's located here towards the front of the trailer. To open that up, just drop the black door here. And this is a direct spark ignition gas electric hot water tank. So it can run on propane or electricity. I showed you the switches inside for the to light the propane on the direct spark ignition. If you were going to operate it on electricity, you have to turn the inside switch on, but you also have to turn this little black rocker switch on. So just turn it to the on position. I'll leave that for now in the off position so that there's no chance of accidentally starting up the hot water tank with no water in it. Because if that were ever to happen, two things could happen. One, you could burn out your heating element. Two, you could trip one of your ECOs. These two little black reset buttons up here are just in case you ever overheat the water heater. And mainly when that happens is if it was accidentally started up with no water in it. So if you ever try to start up your water heater and it fails to start, the first thing to check is your propane. Make sure you're not out of propane. The second thing to check is to come out here, press these two reset buttons, and it should go back to normal. The button on the left is for electricity, button on the right is for propane, but if it ever occurred, just check both. To drain your hot water tank, you can pull the plug out of the bottom of the tank. When you remove that plug, it has an anode rod attached to it. The anode rod's about that long, and the function of the anode rod is to corrode over time. The anode rod corrodes to preserve the inside lining of the tank from corroding. So that's another maintenance item on your RV. It can get looking very pitted and corroded before it actually needs to be replaced, but depending on the water, it's typically every 3 or 4 years. Make sure before you remove that plug or anode rod, make sure that you've released the pressure from the tank using the pressure relief valve. At operating pressure, it's sitting under about 40 psi. So if you remove that plug before you relieve the pressure, you'll get quite a shower. That basically covers it for the hot water tank. So I guess that basically covers it for the trailer. Hopefully you've learned something about the 2019 Sportsmen LE 270 THLE. If you have any questions, you can always contact us here at Trailblazer or revisit our website. Thanks.